Today, I want to talk about the new show over on Toonami and HBO Max called Invincible Fight Girl, as it's the kind of show I expected to see more of when I was younger and thinking about where animation could one day go, and if you haven't seen it yet, maybe this video will help convince you. Invincible Fight Girl is about a young girl named Andy who dreams of becoming a big and famous wrestler in a world where wrestling is everything. From what I can understand, it started as a Cartoon Network show and still has that safe for kids and family feel to it, but it quickly moved over to Adult Swim and then to the Toonami block, where the serious and more action-oriented cartoons tend to end up. Invincible Fight Girl falls into this category as something of an American anime, which in today's age is often better than anime itself in my opinion, though that wasn't the case when I was younger. Early American anime projects weren't really made by anime fans, I would say, but were more American animation studios trying to capitalize off of the anime trend, but Invincible Fight Girl is very clearly made by an anime enthusiast. In Invincible Fight Girl, wrestling isn't just some sort of niche that Andy has an interest in, but rather it's the main focus of Andy's entire world, with her parents being among the rare few who want to stay safe and do something else like accounting. This is a world where everyone develops crazy wrestling personas and learns special moves and strives to be great, with most just never getting anywhere. This is meant to parallel common anime such as My Hero Academia. In this anime, humans can be born with superpowers, and it's so common that the world has become built around how those powers can be used in society, and not just for the heroes and villains that take up the main stage. Naruto, similarly, takes place in a world where everyone is basically a ninja, and even if you aren't a fighting ninja, you still have ninja skills and training that you use in everyday life and business. Invincible Fight Girl takes this to a more absurd degree, being almost a parody of these anime, but one that chooses to use its formulaic premise in order to create something a bit more relatable. In Invincible Fight Girl, wrestling is the in-world equivalent of fame, fortune, and power. To be able to master that is to be among the most important people in the world, and that is generally what happens in our anime, with the main character inevitably going to a place of great power. In My Hero Academia, the main character Deku goes from having no powers at all to inheriting one of the greatest powers possible. In Naruto, the title character goes on to be the Hokage, or the great leader of his village above all the others. Invincible Fight Girl, however, seems set on doing something really different with its story. Its first episode opens with a monologue from the narrator about the importance of wrestling in Andy's world. Andy, however, is not a wrestler and is instead expected to be a boring old accountant, just like everyone in her family has been for generations. Just because her parents want her to be an accountant doesn't mean Andy is any good at it, however, and so Andy is given permission from her parents to go out into the world and be a wrestler after showing her skills defending the town against an elitist fighter squad. However, just because Andy likes wrestling also doesn't mean that she will be great at it. She managed to train herself to have some good tricks to use against the Perm Squad's leader when he wasn't expecting it, but after that she seemed pretty certain that she would have died if not for the old lady who saved her. Episode 2 continues with that idea by having Andy be down on her luck when she makes it to the big city to try and find a wrestling teacher, where she ends up meeting a bunch of failed wrestlers called the Busters. These guys still have their costumes on and live a wrestler's life the way everyone else in the world seems to, but they no longer chase fame with real regulation matches. They all have their own reasons for this, with one wrestler, Goldie, having lost an eye and having severely damaged her arm, trying to work her way to the top of the industry. She seemed to realize that she was hurting herself more than she needed to, but regardless of their different reasons, they all share the understanding that they were letting go of something that they thought was their dream. And in the end, this was the best choice for them. The show plays with ideas of anime for kids in particular that are about following your dreams and eventually going from humble origins to the most powerful entity in the world or even the universe. But the show immediately sets up the idea that Andy herself won't become the big hero that conquers the world the way the main characters tend to in other anime. There's a really great moment where Goldie and her Buster gang explain that just because they thought it was their dream, that it doesn't mean it was the best thing for them, and that they don't need to put themselves through that kind of work just to prove something to a world that doesn't really care about them as people. As they say in the episode, if a dream is the only way you know to feel alive, then you haven't really lived, you've only dreamed. They explain that the world has a habit of convincing you that the big dream is the only thing that matters. But as you get older and you let go of the more grandiose visions you had of what your life could be if it was perfect, you realize that there are a lot of things in life that can make you feel deeply fulfilled or even just happy, oftentimes in ways that the supposed dream just didn't, even if you achieve your goals. In the show, being a wrestler is something of a metaphor for just being famous in any normal way that you would in real life. It just means being a celebrity, an actor, a musician, or just any star who is famous and powerful just for the merit of what they bring to the table in a world that wants to obsess over something. Andy's parents have safe jobs, ones that aren't competitive in the way that wrestling is, not just in the ring, but as a sort of industry. But being the top competitor in wrestling isn't the only way to have a career in wrestling, and not the only way to enjoy it. The third episode continues to deepen the idea that Andy doesn't have to become the greatest hero of the world by showing that even in the world surrounding wrestling, there are plenty of opportunities to work. People with sick wrestling moves can tenderize meats in ways that machines just can't, and she even meets one character who dreams of becoming a wrestling journalist instead of an actual wrestler, traveling the world to document the history of wrestling instead of just fighting within it. This is more attainable and yet in many ways more rewarding than a career trying to be the world's top wrestler, as even if you do happen to succeed there, you only get to enjoy everything that wrestling is from that one experience, instead of getting to see the entire world of it. And all in all, this is a great setup for a story that follows the basic anime tropes for a long-running action series, but what really gets me going is the animation. The artwork itself is a blend of Western and Eastern to make sure that you get that anime feeling while still recognizing that this is an American production, but where it really embraces the anime style is in its production. You'll notice that the show has a lower frame rate than a lot of other Western animation and even Japanese anime these days. It's clearly digital animation, don't get me wrong, but they use the tricks and formulas of older anime in order to tell a story on a budget while still having really fun action, and there's something about it that just feels downright nostalgic. This may sound like a weird thing to love, but in episode 1, when there's destruction in Andy's town, we see animation of people actually running in the background. Don't get me wrong, it's like cheap 2-frame loops, but words cannot describe how frustrating it is to watch a new show like Invincible with its anime style and then see 3D animated models walking in the backgrounds in order to save money. For me, I'd rather just see the 2-frame loop that actually blends with the rest of the animation. Or heck, I honestly even like it when it's just a still image shaking, like during the earthquake scene at the end of episode 1, as long as it's done tastefully, and I would say that is exactly what Invincible Fight Girl does. Every shot can be examined and analyzed to understand how it was planned in order to save money while still telling a kick-ass story. It reminds you of how easy it could be to make your own anime or cartoon if you use these same tricks to save time and effort, letting characters just hold still when they talk, or just change their pose slightly in between lines instead of animating a full motion. Don't get me wrong, it's impressive to watch the older Disney films and see how fluid the animation is with so many frames and such attention to detail, but there's a lot less to examine in these, and it all just moves so fast. Say what you will about lower budget productions, but you get a chance to actually enjoy the artwork and see how these shots are planned and made. And with that in mind, I hope you check out the show if you haven't seen it yet. 3 episodes are already available over on HBO Max, and while the wrestling premise may seem a bit silly, it's basically a world of low-level superheroes with epic powers being revealed on the horizon, so consider giving it a watch. And if you want to talk more about cartoons, head on down to our Cartoon Universe Discord server, where we have different chat rooms for all your favorite different cartoons. Link in the pinned comment down below, and I'll see you guys there.